Pancake everyone! Every day we hear about dream cars. Ferrari, Porsche, Jaguar, Lamborghini, and thanks to James Bond, Aston Martin. Over the years, the car models have become benchmarks of elegance and speed on the roads. But what if I told you that even these car giants have had their failures? Yes, failures that would make you question the super in the title of this top list. Many people try to forget about these failures as quickly as possible, but we won't let these automotive giants off the hook. Today we'll remember the most disastrous supercar concepts, and for dessert we'll showcase the strangest concept cars. Let's go! You've probably heard of the Lamborghini Diablo, the best-selling Lamborghini of all time. It was a masterpiece created by a company plagued with scandals. The supercar was beloved and featured in music videos and films of the 90s, showcasing a luxurious lifestyle. Well, the Diablo has an evil twin. Its name is the Vector M12 by Megatech. The Vector M12 was literally based on the Diablo, with most of its mechanical components being the same of those as the Diablo. They even used the same V12 engine from Lamborghini. Megatech's goal was to create a more affordable version of the popular Lamborghini model. They relocated the engine, borrowed the body design from another failed project called the AWX3, and made some tweaks. However, something went terribly wrong during the production stage. Actually, everything went wrong. Specialized magazines labeled this sports car as the worst in history among all tested cars, the worst in the world, and simply a failed attempt. Only 17 cars were produced from 1994 to 1999, including 3 prototypes. It's safe to say it didn't live up to expectations for mass production, but it certainly secured a place on our list of failures. What about Lamborghini themselves? Of course they've had their dark moments too. For example, in 1995, Lamborghini collaborated with Gigliato Design to develop the concept for a production car called the Gigliato Aerosa. The plan was simple. Lamborghini would do what they do best, create an amazing car. The production would take place in England, and Gigliato Design would handle the import to Japan. The goal was to make the car reasonably priced. They aimed for a modest $65,000 price tag, but the plans didn't materialize. The concept remained just a concept, appearing on bubblegum wrappers and becoming the dream of many boys in the 90s. There is another car from the 90s that ended up on bubblegum wrappers, and it was made in only one example by the head of Speed and Sport Mladen Mitrovic. Drawing inspiration from Mercedes concepts, he created the Kodiak F1. For 1983, the supercar looked quite impressive. It had a sleek design, bold lines, and those trendy gull-wing doors. What about the interior? A leather cabin, comfortable seats, nothing too surprising. But what truly amazed everyone was how they managed to fit over 20 speakers for an incredible sound experience into such a small car. However, it gets a bit trickier with the specifications. The data varies, and since the only existing model was sold in 2009, it's difficult to verify its weight or speed characteristics. Although there were rumors that Mitrovic had another option, the Kodiak with a different engine from AMG instead of the V8. Shh, don't tell that collector buyer. He paid $50,000 for something unique, let's not disappoint him. The next close project fell victim to the tightening of US legislation and the global movement towards eco-energy and electric cars. The Cadillac 16 was an attempt by General Motors to regain its former glory of the mid-20th century, to go back to the times when Cadillac was synonymous with luxury automobiles. The main feature of this model was its super powerful 16-cylinder engine with 1,000 horsepower. It was believed that until then, no giants had considered putting such powerful engines in production cars. However, the Cadillac 16 ultimately did not enter production. Despite incorporating all the technological innovations of the time, despite its design encompassing the best solutions from Cadillac throughout its existence, despite its unique system of temporarily deactivating unnecessary engine cylinders for fuel economy, despite everything, this 2-ton giant capable of reaching speeds of 320 km per hour, which garnered interest from enthusiasts and experts, remained a prototype and a car from the movies. It turned out to be untimely, even a bit conceptually outdated for a market already looking towards electric motors. As a result, just 4 years later, in 2007, the General Motors director announced that the Cadillac 16 and its unfortunate brother, the Buick Velite, would remain concepts and not go into production. And since we're in the subject of casualties due to manufacturers transitioning to electric engines, it's impossible one could say that the creators didn't really think about the design, focusing solely on aerodynamics for speed. And indeed, the Caparo T1 became the first car for the open market with an engine displacement of 1000 liters per ton of weight. The EOS Exigence of Speed was a car straight out of video games, and it's not surprising since designers from McLaren F1 contributed to its creation. They gathered all their knowledge of racing tracks and transferred it to their aerospace marvel. The creators did everything to enhance stability during turns, even at high speeds, and all this beauty was put to rest in 2006. This model never made it to production line. The next example will show us how to derive benefit from mistakes. And yes, if you thought the Jaguar didn't have any failures, I'm sorry to disappoint you, they certainly did. The Jaguar C-X75, produced in collaboration with the Formula One team, was first unveiled in 2010 at the Paris Auto Show. Everything was planned beautifully. A two-seater hybrid with 4 electric motors, 110 kilometers of pure electric range, weight reduction through carbon fiber, and most importantly, the main purpose for hybrid and electric cars, reducing CO2 emissions into the atmosphere. Jaguar intended to use this project to influence the technologies and design of future cars. The plan was to produce 250 vehicles in total, but with the production version, the electric range had to be halved. However, the maximum speed remained untouched at 320 km per hour. However, in 2012, due to the ongoing economic crisis, the company's management decided that buyers would not purchase a car priced up to £1 million in such market conditions. Continuing the development of the project simply didn't make sense. And what did Jaguar do with their progress afterward? It was precisely the CX-75 model painted in a deep orange color that appeared in the movie Spectre, the 24th part of the James Bond franchise. Immediately, rumors started circulating about the revival of the prototype's development, but Jaguar promptly denied them. Although the car in Spectre looks exactly like the CX-75, mechanically it is a completely different vehicle. The lessons learned from the designing the CX-75 had already been applied, and the company used the newfound knowledge in creating models like the F-Type and I-Pace. We discussed the latter in our video about electric cars. Take a look if you're interested. By the way, speaking of Spectre, one supercar was named exactly that. It is rumored that the Spectre R42 destroyed the company that created it. But let's go in order. Back in the 1960s, Ford produced the legendary GT40 racing cars. And then, years later, Ray Christopher, a man who had worked with GT40 for many years, decided to update the model and create his own version for the 90s. The entry-level elements were literally taking everything by storm: Ferrari, Jaguar, Lamborghini. Christopher's goal was simple: to create a car that would win the 24-hour endurance marathon, just like the GT40 did. The only thing left was to create such a supercar, and the team began the process in 1992. But in 1993, something went wrong. Something specific, actually. The development costs were increasing, and the economy was in decline. Financial problems led Christopher's company to be sold. The head of Spectre Motors Inc. didn't waste any time and released the R42 on the market just 4 months after acquiring the company. To do this, he attracted investors, restructured a small factory, reorganized the work there, and started developing a racing version of the R42, ultimately selling 23 cars for the £70,000 each. All that effort for 23 sold cars, you might ask? What if I tell you that even those cars weren't perfect and received a lot of negative reviews from both the press and the drivers? People complained about poor fitting and subpar finishes, and it was even noticed that expensive sports car parts from other vehicles were used in production. Things like door handles, turn signals, and rear lights, seemingly minor details, but they left a mark. No reboot and no use of the developments for the R45 prototype helped Spectre Motors Inc. In 1998, the company went out of business due to a lack of finances. But why are we talking only about sports cars? So many concepts haven't been discussed yet. Take, for example, crossovers, which are very popular now. But do you know how painfully designers and engineers spent years developing this format? How they went through trial and error and more errors to find out what an ideal crossover should be like? And the search was agonizing. Just look at this 1998 Buick Signia. It's a perfect example of how engineers in pursuit of practicality can neglect the designer's involvement in the project. and as a result it earned the title of the ugliest car in history. Interestingly, most of the criticism focused solely on its appearance because technically the car felt quite decent. But just look at it. The front part might be somewhat acceptable, yes, but the trunk designed to resemble a hearse? Let's not dwell on it too much. The project was long closed because there was simply no buyers interested in purchasing it. Another version of a car on the way to the familiar crossovers was the 2002 Kia KCV-II. Trying to appeal to the European public, South Koreans mixed the practicality of a pickup truck with the safety of an SUV. However, later they admitted that the designers' conflicting decisions were aimed at attracting the attention of active youth who go on picnics and visit various remote places. How much the youth of the 2000s would be attracted to such a sleeper is up for debate. But the fact remains that this model remained only at the concept level. To be fair, most of the criticism was directed at the external part of the car. The internals, so to speak, were in order. And in 2004, Volkswagen enters the game with its Concept T. How about a mix of an off-roader with a convertible? Yes, the roof has a removable part. Yes, Concept T has trendy upward opening doors, only 2 seats and no wheel arches. And the exhaust pipes are located where the rear lights are. In detail, this car still looks very modern even now. But all these elements together, combined with a seemingly pressed-down body, create a strange image. And yes, like many models on this list, Concept T also never made it to serial production. So the origins of crossovers are more or less clear, right? Let's move on to something sweet. Several very strange concept cars to surprise and amaze your friends in conversations. Let's start with the trio of concept cars presented in 2008 at the North American International Auto Show. They are the Book of Songs, Detroit Fish, and Piece of Cloud, Chinese electric cars with whimsical designs. The creators themselves believed that they were developing a unique Chinese style of cars, but have you seen such cars on your streets? Neither have we. But let's go in order. Detroit Fish is clearly inspired by the Volkswagen Beetle. Although it attracted attention, it didn't succeed, just like its 2 counterparts. The Book of Songs is also an electric car that looks like it came straight out of a cartoon. Many say it looks more like a boot, and a Piece of Cloud looks like a piece of candy. Designed for tourist and university towns, after all, they can't accelerate faster than 45 km per hour, they are round and small with a range of 150 km. The company never released them on the market. Why do you think that is? And the champion of champions, the Honda Fuya Jo 1999. Japanese designers are racking their brains on how to make young people buy cars and come up with this, a party car. And since you need to dance at a party, you won't find familiar seating in this car. They are more like semi-standing. Well, they also save space. What else do you need on a small, densely populated island? Of course, a car for leisurely trips from bar to bar. While developing this car, the creators didn't forget about the unpleasant consequences of parties, spilled drinks. The floor in the concept car is anti-slip and water-repellent, making it easier to clean. Even the control panel is designed like a DJ console. In general, it can be said that the designers limited themselves in fantasies. Perhaps that's why the Honda Fuya Jo never made it to serial production and didn't fill the streets of the Japanese capital. These are the examples of failed ideas we have gathered for you today. Tell us in the comments which concept seemed the worst to you and on which one would you ride yourself. And we are off to prepare new videos for you. See you later!